my time here in Maytown and sort of talking about the accomplishments of my parents while we were living in Maytown. To give you a little bit of background about my parents, my dad had worked in hardware all his life. When he got out of the Navy after World War II, he worked in a warehouse over in York, where they sold wholesale hardware to different hardware stores throughout the area. And after a couple of years of working in the warehouse like that, he applied for a different job with them as a traveling salesman. And his territory happened to be Lancaster County. And one of the stores that he dealt with was C.A. Straley's Hardware Store. And C.A. Straley told my dad, I think I've had enough of this kind of work, I'd like to sell the place. And my dad thought, well, this might be a good way for me to sort of be my own boss. And he thought, I'm gonna buy C.A. Straley's store. And he did. A little bit of reflection on Straley. He was a harness maker. And he did a really good job with that kind of thing. And when we bought the store, there were some things left over from when he was in the harness business. And what was left over that we really did well with was dog collars. Believe it or not, he made really good dog collars. And they held up very well, and we really had no trouble selling them at all. Another thing that was left over when we got the store was C.A. Straley oil. It was a general purpose oil that he had bottled in glass bottles. Unfortunately, I don't have any. I guess we got rid of everything and didn't want the old bottles laying around, so I don't have any to show you or anything like that. But right after we bought the store, we changed the name, and the name was Maytown Hardware. A lot of people used to call us Fink's Hardware, and I can understand why they did that. Every business in Maytown had a name attached to it. House in the Store, Shank Store, Keeler Memorial, Arnold's Garage. You know, everybody had a name attached to it. What we did, we were different. So that's why it is, the official name is Maytown Hardware. When I was at Mayfest this year, there's some of my artifacts that I donated to the Historical Society were on display. And one question came up from several different people that were looking at the articles. Where was your store? We don't know where your store was. Well, there's where our store was, the big gray building. When we lived there, it wasn't quite that dark gray. It was a lighter color, and it had dark gray trim on it. But that was where we lived. There's where the house was on the left, and the storefront is there on the right. And that was the store itself. It was narrow and long, way back in the backyard. When we moved here, we were considered outsiders. We had no ties to this area whatsoever. We had no relatives, no friends, and we felt we had to do things for this community that they would trust us and do business with us. Ironically, the first friend that we had, or the first friend that invited us to their home, happened to be my wife's parents, Marty Trost and Martha. They were actually the first people that invited us to visit their place. Our store was very well known for being helpful to the people in town. We were always repairing things. We had little old ladies bringing in lights that had to be replaced. Well, they should have been thrown away, but we rewired them for them and made them work again. And we repaired window sills as far as the window glass. We replaced screens, all that sort of thing. And we had long hours. Our hours when we first opened the store were from 7:30 in the morning to 10 at night, 6 days a week. Wow. And since we lived there, Sunday wasn't free. People would come in the door, we need this, we need that, especially in the summertime when people were doing barbecuing and they needed charcoal for the grills and that sort of thing. So we accommodated them, we did everything we could to do anything like that. We sold a lot of different things in the store. We sold gifts, we sold records, 45 and 33 to 3rd RPM records. We sold shoes, boots, sporting goods. We provided film processing back in the days when we still used film. You had to get your film processed. We did all that sort of thing. And we even had ice cream and soda in the store. We sold gasoline. We had 2 grades of gas, regular and high test. And boy, did people complain when the price of gas went up to 30 cents a gallon. And to help everybody out, we gave S&H green stamps. Yes, we did. And as a matter of fact, one year, they needed a place to have a whole polling for the election. And we even turned part of the store into a polls, which was a lot of work, because we had to cover everything up. We couldn't have any material exposed, and have only one door to get into the polling area. It was a lot of requirements. We only did that one year. One of the things we were well known for back in those days was we sold lawn and boy mowers. We ended up being one of the largest lawn and boy mower dealers in Lancaster County. And the way we did it, or how we were able to sell so many, was the service we provided. We did something that's unheard of. If you bought a mower from us, you never paid any kind of labor costs to get your mower repaired. You would pay for the parts, but not the labor. As a matter of fact, if your mower broke down at your house and you couldn't bring it in, we would go out, pick it up, bring it in, work on it, bring it back to you, and still only charge you for the parts. I heard recently where some of the dealers are getting $85 an hour for labor to work with lawnmowers. We never saw anything like that. My dad did go to lawn boy school. In fact, his certificate's up here. He was actually an authorized service dealer. And whatever he learned, he came back and told me how to do it. So the 2 of us did this. By the way, I was an only child. So it's just mother, dad, and myself that really ran the store. The word got around the area that we were a large lawnmower dealer. And we had an offer presented to us that we hated to turn down, but I'm sure that the residents here in Maytown are glad we did turn it down. Believe it or not, we were offered the Honda motorcycle dealership back then. We, fortunately, I guess you could say, could not come up with the upfront money that they required to get that started. And instead, that dealership ended up down in Mountainville. And I understand that dealer now is out on 283 as Lancaster Honda. It's still in business to this day. We did a lot of different things, and we did a co-adventure project. We did it with Paul Hay. I don't know if any of you people remember Paul. Paul lived on Queen Street in the house that the porch comes out over the sidewalk. Well, Paul was an authorized distributor for Zenith, Amana, and Gibson appliances. Paul didn't have a place to put these appliances. So he and my dad got together. We used the store to display his appliances. And of course, when we would sell any, Dad and I would deliver them and hook them up for everybody. Fortunately, we didn't have to do much repair work back then on this extra. So we never got involved with that very much. But I do remember that was during the time when Zenith was coming out with color TV. And we had one on display in the store, and people would come in just to watch the color TV. At Christmas time, we did a lot of different things for the community also. We had a part of our store turned into a toy department. And to celebrate the season, we would have Santa Claus fly into the airport, Donnie Airport. Fire department would go out with the fire truck, pick up Santa, bring him into town. Matter of fact, there's the first airplane that brought Santa to town. It was called Donnie Air Base back then. In the later years, they got a more modern plane, had bicycle wheels on it. As a service we provided at Christmas also was a free layaway. If you bought your toys from us, we'd give you a layaway, no charge. And we would even wrap your packages for you and store them so you came in at Christmas time to pick them up. There's one drawback to that, you know. That sounds good. You only had one pattern of paper. So all your packages looked alike. But there's Santa Claus. These aren't very good pictures, well, they're kind of on the old side. There's Santa on the fire truck. Anybody have an idea who that guy is on the fire truck right there? Charlie Flowers. There's Santa Claus getting to the hardware store. Now, another thing we did in the wintertime that a lot of people didn't realize, my dad was an old fur dealer also. He bought muskrats, coons, foxes, skunks, deer hides, all that sort of thing, processed them right there in the store, in the basement. Or if he did have a little shed out back that he used for a while, but it got too cold out there, so he just sort of gave up on that and did it in the store. And what we have here, these are the boards that we used to dry the pelts on. These are typically used for the larger animals like the possum, coon, skunks, and that sort of thing. And these were handmade boards that both my grandfather was also a fur dealer, and they kind of worked together on this sort of thing. And what we've done with these now, we haven't painted. Now they're decorations in the house. Most of the stretchers we used for muskrats were the wire type stretchers. We did have one very unique, say our customer come in one day that we didn't know what to do, but Dad didn't know how to handle it. He had these things. They're beaver. Somebody in the area, in some place, got 2 beaver. My dad didn't even know what to do with them. We had to get in contact with our broker to find out how to skin it over things, how they're supposed to be shaped when they were skinned out. And those were the 2 beaver hides that he bought from a guy. Now, not to be outdone, my mother had a finished fur shop in the store also, where she sold coats, stoles, capes, all that sort of thing. And that was another part code deal again with Francis Greer that lived there in the square. It was called the Fran Mar Fur Shop. I wonder where they came up with that name. My mother's name was Marilyn, and it's Francis. Fortunately for them, it was a consignment type deal. They didn't have to go out and buy all those furs. If you would come in and see, well, here's one I like, but it's not my size, they could get you one of the size you wanted and that sort of thing. But it didn't last very long. And like I said, it was in the second floor of the store. When we moved to Maytown, next to our store, which is right here, this is our place, this building here was the Dupler store. They sold groceries, they had a restaurant, and in fact, the restaurant was right inside that big glass window there. And over the years, there were 2 on there after we moved into town, they ended up closing up the store. So we purchased the building, and then we cut a hole in that building, cut a hole in our building, that we can put a walkway to go through the 2 stores. So it was actually one big massive store then. Also at that time, there was a shoe factory in town and a garment factory. And a lot of ladies who were working in those 2 places had nowhere to go to eat for lunch. There was no place in town to eat at that time. So my mother came up with this idea, let's turn part of our house into a coffee shop. She wouldn't call it a restaurant, it had to be called a coffee shop. She didn't fry anything. You couldn't get a hamburger, you couldn't get French fries. But you got homemade barbecue sandwiches and homemade meals every day was made in our kitchen. And what she did, she took our living room, our dining room, and our kitchen and turned it into a restaurant. Wasn't fun. Because remember, we had a little store to work with too, plus the coffee shop. Well, I guess it was unfortunate, the garment factory moved out of town. And after that, there wasn't as many people to eat. And the work got a little bit too tough for my mother. It was a health situation. So we closed up the restaurant. Also during that time, my mother, when we lived in town here, gave piano lessons and voice lessons. And she did that during that same time. So we had the hardware store, we had the restaurant, piano lessons. I don't know how she did it. I really don't know. And there was there wasn't anything in town for teenagers to do. And of course, there was a lot of teenagers I was running around with at the time. And so my parents took the back part of the store, where there wasn't a whole lot going on, cleared it out as best they could, put a pinball machine and a jukebox in. It had its own entrance and was a place for the kids to go. It didn't last too long, but while I was there, everybody had fun. Now, while we were there in Maytown, my dad became active in the American Legion. He was a member of what we called at that time the Maytown Baker's Rotary Club. In fact, he was president there. Served on the church council for a little bit. And during that time is when we celebrated the bicentennial, during 1960. Well, Dad was given the responsibility of getting the houses decorated in Maytown. And what he did, he had his company come in, and you would pay to have your house decorated with awning and all that sort of thing. And then when you paid, you got to keep Maytown banners. If you see the white banner with the green and the Maytown pump on it, we were to keep that. He was responsible for making all the arrangements to get that done. And he also was part of the group that set up the games of chance that they had like a carnival going on at the same time. He was responsible for getting all that kind of stuff in at the time. Here's a picture from back in those days. This is actually the front of the Duper store when it had a porch back in 1960. And if you take notice, this tree up here, that was a horse chestnut tree that was sat and stood out front. The dirtiest, messiest tree in town, I think. It was terrible. But there you can see how the money, there was the Maytown banner in the middle, and you had red, white, and blue on either side. Here's another picture from back then, which shows some of the decorations also. And then next to our house was a yard between our place and House's place. And we had a split rail fence, and the guy, Dad, got the contractor to do the decorations, did this for us as a favor, make it look nice there. Sorry, the color's a little bad. Picture was older than I am. Now, in the, with this bicentennial going on, there was an option for the men in town. They could either shave or not shave. If you didn't want to shave, remember what they call the Brothers of the Brush. There's the Brothers of the Brush in Maytown back in 1960. My dad had to use that over right there. If you didn't, or if you wanted to shave, you had to buy a shaving permit. You had to carry that with you all the time. If you didn't have the shaving permit, and you weren't a member of the Brothers of the Brush, got put in jail. That happens to be a friend of my dad's from over in York, and he came over to celebrate bicentennial, and he ended up in jail. Now, up here in the front, you see this scale that's on the table. That scale was a scale that we used to weigh out nails. Back in those days, you didn't have anything prepackaged. Our nails came in at a 50 pound, they first started out in a wooden barrel, then later on they were wooden cardboard boxes. If you wanted 3 nails, we'd sell you 3 nails. If you needed a bolt with 3 nuts and 2 flat washers, we'd sell it to you that way. You could do it that way. You didn't have to buy a pack of 5 if you only need 3. We sold you just what you needed that way. That came up to bite us a couple of times. Especially like 4 o'clock in the morning, we get a phone call from a farmer. I just blew a fuse on my milker for my cows. Can I come in and buy a fuse? Yeah. So we get up, let him in, and he buys 1 fuse. And we did it. Like I said, we tried to do everything we could to accommodate people. Now, I see Sarah back here. Back in 1962, my mother started Maytown Flea Market as a fundraiser for the Legion Auxiliary. Back in those days, we would get posters printed up by, of all places, the Marietta Times. If anybody's familiar with that. Until they went out of business, then she got real smart. She got in contact with the high school and had the high school print up the posters. Ken DePoe took care of that for her. Did a great job. The tables that were originally built for that flea market were those wooden tables with screw legs. My dad and Harry Frank was the people who put that together. Also during the bicentennial, Mother was the choir director for the community choir. And I don't have any information about it, but I looked and looked and looked, can't find it. During the bicentennial, my mother found some guy that had a steam-operated calliope. And she had him come in town with it, and she played it. It was very unique, it really was. In fact, it was on a trailer, they had it in the parade in town that time. For 11 years, we ran the business here in Maytown. And we were faced, back in those days, with the same situation that is happening today in many places. Big box stores coming in and taking over the small town stores. Back in those days, the big boxes were 2 guys, Nichols Discount Center. They were the big guys. People would go to those places, if they couldn't find what they wanted, they'd come to us and say, you have it. We thought sure we had it. We checked every place else, we thought sure you'd have it. It just got to us, and we just couldn't handle it anymore, so that's when we decided to pull the plug and go out of business. When we left Maytown, Dad stayed in Hardware. He worked for Wolf Supply Company over in York County. Yes, it's the same Wolf that the present governor's family owns. I used to watch the present governor ride around in a forklift truck. Because I lived there part-time myself. Dad worked as an assistant manager at the Manchester store over in York County. He later was the manager of the Wrightsville store, and then he moved into, as he got older, it was hard for him to get around, and then he moved into the main store in York. As for me, in Maytown, or working at the store, I should say, I had responsibilities also. My parents instilled me to do some things. I can't say anything was wrong with that. I said earlier, we had ice cream and soda. Well, guess what? I was responsible for having ice cream and soda. We had an ice cream chest in the store. It was my responsibility to make sure it was well stocked. Same way with the soda machine. I had to make sure we had the soda, make sure it was stocked. And I'll tell you, it was tough over the weekends to keep that soda machine filled with soda. Because no matter what time of the day you were awake, you could hear the cans coming out of that soda machine. And I must say, I missed that soda machine. Last year, I was in town with some of my friends. We did the walking tour of Maytown during the summer, when it was hot. There's no place in Maytown that did drink. No place. Fortunately, we saw Jack Frank. We knew him, and he invited us in to have some iced tea with him, which was great. Really appreciate it. But I must say, we really pushed for customer service in this store. And I guess it paid off for us. We did as best we could with it. I know it paid off for me because in my last job, I worked in customer service. And I received rewards for the customer service I provided to my customers. So I must give my parents credit for that also. Now, if I can find this picture. That was my mother and dad back in the day. Looks a little strange. That was them. That has to be my dad sitting on the bench at the piano there in our living room. And then, for you folks that know them, this was a little bit later. This was just, I guess around 2008 or 2009. Unfortunately, Dad ended up with dementia and Alzheimer's. And he spent the last 7 years of his life up in this sunny village in the Alzheimer's wing. I must say they treated him well. He thought he was on vacation. He thought the nurse's station was the office of the hotel he was staying at. And he just had a grand time. He really did. Mother passed away in 2010. Dad passed away in 2011. Dad passed away 1 year and 4 hours after Mother did. And now, my wife and I live there. We've been there since December of last year. We love it. I guess that's where we're going to end up. So, with that in mind, thank you very much for the invitation to talk about Maytown Hardware. I have a lot of things up here you can look at, ask questions about. There's a fly swatter up here, and a calendar, and sponges that we used to give out at Christmas time for the customers. Some sale bills. Oh, sale bills. Before I forget that. These are fun to read, especially the prices. But a couple of weeks ago, I had flashbacks. When we had these sale bills, I hand carried these sale bills all over the place. Every house in Maytown got a sale bill. Every house in Irishtown got a sale bill. Every house in Atlanta got a sale bill. Every house in Bainbridge got a sale bill. That's what gave me the flashbacks. I was down in Bainbridge and I thought, I remember walking these streets and handing these days on sale bills out. When you're the only child, small family like that, you gotta do it all. And so that's what we did. There's also some things up here from the bicentennial. There's advertisements for Santa Claus, and almost all the stuff I've given to the Historical Society, and I didn't even know I gave you this. And that's the grand opening of the Maytown Hardware Store back in 1957. By the way, you got a free paint brush with every quart of paint, and a quarter pint of paint was 15 cents, a half pint was 25, and a pint was 40 cents. Now it's 40. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer any questions.